Welcome, fellow travelers. It's Mickey Gold. I wanted to talk to you today about chunking up and chunking down. Now, chunking, I will give you the example of chunking up first. And it's just basically making things less detailed and putting things into a more abstract idea. Let me show you. Okay, 68 two-door blue Ford Falcon, my first car. Now, there's a lot of details there. So the more details we take out and the farther we step away from that, the higher we're chunking. So if we say 68 Ford Falcon, we leave off the blue, we leave off the two-door. Then we can categorize higher by saying Ford Falcon, because there's different years, very different looking cars. And then you could say Ford, and that would give you whole bunches depending on what year you're talking about. Then you could say two-door. You could say sedan. You could say certain things. You can just go higher and higher. You could take this up until you reach transportation, which covers whether you're driving a bus, you're driving an RV, you're driving a Falcon. So that's highest. So chunking down would be if you were talking about transportation, and then you chunk back down in the reverse order. Now, chunking down is a super good way to break down projects. So for instance, say you have to do a super deep clean on your house. Say you have somebody coming over to your house, and I would say family member because we wouldn't normally invite a friend like this. You might have a family member who, is the kind of literally a white glove type of person, or taking, checking around your stove, or you would never think to check type of person. So say you were cleaning for someone like that. To get through your whole house without feeling overwhelmed, you might want to list and chunk down the steps that it takes to clean your house. Like you could chunk down clean the bathroom to starting with clean the sink, then clean the toilet, then clean the tub. So this gives you smaller steps. This could be, wipe off all the bottles too, because depending on what you got going on in your bathroom, for instance, we don't have a window in our bathroom, so we do have to wipe off everything because it just never, even with the fan, the bathroom never dries. So these are ways to chunk down, and you can do this whether it's cleaning, whether it's I have these huge projects, and you can chunk it down very specifically. Like for instance, say, okay, yard work. It's time to do yard work. Okay, you could organize this into, for instance, you want to do, trimming bushes. You want to do raking leaves. You want to do doing weeds. And you can break those down into, again, instead of yard work, you break them down into little headings. And then you could break that down even further, because part of doing weeds, you might have to also, put them somewhere. So there's little things that, and what this does for people is, if you're not really looking forward to a task, breaking it down into little parts and being able to either cross that off or check it off can feel great. At the end of the day when you're like, I did something, and also keep you on track. For instance, when I was a little kid, when I would get sent in to clean my room, I would spend a lot of time organizing stuff on top of my dressers, and I would get completely lost. And my mom would come in, and I made a bigger mess than I started with because I didn't know where to start. It wasn't like, okay, make sure, had I gone through, pick up sort the dirty stuff from the clean stuff, hang up clean stuff, put dirty stuff and go do laundry. That sort of stuff, make the bed, do this, dust, and organize last or whatever. You can, chunk it down to make those things easier. And had someone taught me that, that would have saved a lot of heartache for both my mother and for myself. I mean, a lot of heartache, because there was a lot of I'm in trouble because it's 8 hours later and my room is still messy, but I have the coolest, countertop, spare top space covered with these really cool scenes, and I have posters all over my wall, and I've, created some sort of, masterpiece and lost track. So for those of you who are a little more creative and kind of tend to lose track, that's perfect. Now, you might be wondering, well, what does chunking up do? Well, some of these ideas come from NLP and hypnosis. And I say NLP and hypnosis because the two kind of really go hand in hand. They both help each other. When I do hypnosis, I use NLP techniques. I don't just use NLP by itself generally. I can do that, but I tend to do it with hypnosis. So what you can do, hypnosis and NLP are used a lot in sales. And when you come down to it with sales, is basically rapport, building rapport with people. Now, when you get really, really specific, when you chunk down, it's easy to find how we're different and maybe not get into rapport. When you chunk up, it's easier to get into rapport with people. And you don't have to be doing sales. This is just going to help you with relationships with people. Say you have you cannot find common ground with someone. You chunk up and chunk up and chunk up till basically like, well, we're both, we both live on, the northern hemisphere. We both, like you might have to chunk up really high, like we're both human beings. We both have the same amount of chromosomes. Yay, we both have opposable thumbs. You might have to get really specific. Sometimes this can save you though. This can save you. This is how when you go out to dinner or when you have people over who have very clashing, head-knocking opinions, chunking up is an easier way to find a common ground. Because when we chunk down, even for instance, if you guys both like the same football team, and I don't know a lot about football, so say you like the same football team, but this person really dislikes the quarterback and this person loves the quarterback. And so, they might be at each other's throats because of this instance. Now, if we just chunk it up to whatever team that was, great. Or, you can chunk it higher and higher too. We like the same sport even. We like sports. We like movement and even taking it farther away, removing it from. So when you have really hot topics, you can remove and walk farther and farther back from said topic and still be able to communicate. Because no matter what, you don't want to lose your links to people. I mean, of course, there's some things that, isn't okay, but for the most part, most people having a disagreement on something because they've chunked way down. So they don't see eye to eye. And the more you chunk up, for instance, chunking up to, we all want love. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, that explains whether you're talking about bad behavior, good behavior, this, that. It basically amounts to, we all want love. And it might be different on how we assume love feels. So chunking up, okay, so the top is, I want love. We all want love. And then chunking down to, is that sexual love? Is that, parental love? Is that, what is that? And then chunking it down to farther and farther until you might get down to your partner or whatever the case may be. So again, this is just a nice way to be able to deal with things in our lives. And so I hope this finds you doing well. Peace, love, namaste.